Cluster 2, Tension and Surprise. This goes with the passage The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. You can look up this story online if you need to, if you don't have a copy of the book at home. It's everywhere online, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding it. Cluster 2, we're working specifically with standard RL 2.4. I have that listed on the top of the sheet for you. I have the directions here that tell you what to do. This goes on page 38 in your notebook, and exactly how to set it up. So we have the literary elements on the side. You do not have to copy the rows with my examples in them, right? You only have to copy the titles of these columns and then leave space for you to do your own situational irony, your own foreshadowing, and your own symbolism. So what you're going to do for situational irony is find 2 examples of it and provide the text evidence and then explain why that text evidence is situational irony. So if you're not sure what situational irony is, it says it's the contrast between what is expected and what actually happens. So situational irony would be, for example, the morning of June 27th was clear and sunny with the fresh warmth of a full summer day. The flowers were blossoming profusely and the grass was richly green. Right? You would expect this to be maybe like a romantic story. Maybe someone's going to fall in love, like flowers are blooming, the sky is clear, it's a sunny day. Like all those things should indicate to you that this is going to be a really nice story. So the explanation here for why it's situational irony, it says the author begins the story describing a bright, sunny, ideal day where one would expect happiness. Instead, neighbors stone one of their own to death. So obviously the beginning of the story, lines 1 through 10, is indicating that we're about to read something really nice, like it's going to be pleasant, and it actually turns out to be the exact opposite. So the author is purposely lulling you into this false sense of security that this is going to be a good story, and then they're going to surprise you at the end with it being not actually a good story, a bad story. So situational irony should be where the author is explaining something in a way where you would expect a certain thing to happen, and in fact, the exact opposite happens. Right? So in the case of The Lottery, we know it has a bad ending, so you should be looking for any lines in the text that indicate to you that this should be actually a good story with a happy ending. Just find 2 more examples where you would think that this would lead to a happy ending, or where characters are really excited about something and you would think it would be a good thing they're excited about and turns out not to be the case. Or where any time you would expect something to happen based off of character's behavior or the description provided, and the exact opposite happens. That's what you're looking for. For foreshadowing, the use of clues to hint at events that will occur later in the story. Okay, so we have here for the example, the feeling of liberty sat uneasily on most of them. Liberty being freedom, right? So uneasily is the first negative word the author uses, probably indicating something bad will occur. So you're looking for things like that where there's a statement, but there's 1 word or 2 words in there that indicate to you that not everything is all right. Like something may be happening soon that is, making them feel worried or concerned, and it shows that in the word uneasily. Okay, so what I don't want to see for your example for foreshadowing is that there was a pile of stones. Okay, that is not foreshadowing, right? That's not indicating you something wrong or something bad is going to happen. Like, so what? There's a pile of stones. They could be skipping stones across a river. We don't know. The pile of stones isn't indicating to you something bad will happen. It's those words that really, like uneasily, or any word like that where you can sense that something is wrong or that people are worried or concerned. That's foreshadowing. So those are the kind of clues you're looking for. And then you would just explain over here what word gave you the indication something bad was going to happen within the quote that you provide. Okay? Symbolism. Symbolism uses a symbol to the use of symbols to represent ideas or qualities. Okay, so for the example here, we have selecting the smoothest and roundest stones. Okay, the stones represent a cold and inhumane loss of respect for human life, right? So we obviously know what they did with the stones. So the same way the stones are cold, you could say that the people who end up, stoning someone, that the way they treat the person who wins the lottery is cold. They don't really feel anything for the person who is being stoned to death. Okay, so I want you to notice here, we got this from the text where it says selecting the smoothest and roundest stones. Okay, I didn't personally make up this symbolism here, but clearly someone did. It's made up, right? I don't know that the author was really intending us to look at those stones being smooth and round and saying, oh, those must represent how the people treat the person who wins the lottery. No, so basically with symbolism, and the thing about English in general, studying English, is that you can make stuff up, and as long as you can explain your reasoning and it makes sense, then it's correct. So pick anything in the passage, anything that's described in detail, like an item or an object, or a person maybe who's described in detail. And what might that item or object then represent? Like that parallels in the story. So it has to represent, it can't represent something random, and it can't be something that the story itself says it represents. Like the scrap of paper with a black dot represents the person who's chosen to be stoned to death. That's what it actually is. That's what it actually represents. That's not symbolism, it's clearly stated. Okay, so when you're looking for symbolism, you're trying to find a description of something and then see if you can make it match anything else that happens in the story, that it's symbolic for something. So like the black box is shabby. They describe it as, being chipped away and that people haven't really taken care of it. All right, so there's a description of the black box in there. Think about how they treat the people who win the lottery. Do they treat those people the same way they treat the box? Maybe the way they treat the box is indicative of how they treat those people. Maybe the box represents what happens to them. I don't know. Maybe a description of a character in the passage kind of is indicative of a belief that the whole society has or something that occurs in the story. So as long as you can explain it really well, you'll get the points for symbolism. So at the bottom, you're getting 2 points each for the text evidence for providing a quote. Sorry, not 2 points each, 1 point each. That was my mistake. The second point for each piece of evidence is the citation. So I do want to see, just like in these examples, what line number you found those quotes in. All right, so provide those line numbers for me. Make sure that you actually explain. You have elaboration and original thinking. You're explaining why something is symbolism, why something is foreshadowing, why something is situational irony. That's what I'm looking for. And then you rate yourself on the RL 2.4 scale. You go back, and that should be on the other corner of your paper, the bottom corner. So you go back to the reading scales at the beginning of your notebook, look for RL 2.4, read the descriptions for level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and see which level you think you're on based off of your work on this assignment. And that's all you do. And then you would get the full 24 points, right?